Do you want to pull up the draft memo first? Is that
Yeah.
what you see first? Okay. Okay. Let me make it bigger for you.
Please.
Voila. Is that better?
Wowzer.
Okay, there you are.
Do we have anybody joining us in the chat or by phone?
We have one attendee, Miss Risa.
Risa Jeffries?
Yeah, she's here.
Okay. Ms. Jeffries, can you hear me? If so, just let me know whether you can see the document or you are on the phone only. Can you type something in the chat?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, well, good. So why don't we kind of scroll through this and we decide what is, what isn't, what's missing, what more we want.
If you're interested, Chair, I can also just, if anyone hasn't read the document, just give a brief summary of what each section is about.
No, we'll do it. We'll just take about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Another time zone in another world, and I wasn't focused. Sorry, guys. I actually reclaimed my life last week. So give me a minute.
Congratulations.
Do that every now and then.
Yeah, it's important.
But then I came back to learn that they have enough signatures for a recall and the FBI is rummaging through the mayor's house. So, boy, oh boy.
Never a dull moment in Oakland.
Nope. Can you scroll down a little more now? Okay, good.
Let me know.
I like this paragraph. The commission's considered a judgment. That one I like. Yeah.
Where did it go?
It's right here. The commission's considered judgment on the court's question regarding the monitor and continue room for improvement in OPD's compliance with the NSA, it should be a comma, does not signal a belief that the commission does not desire release from the NSA or that the OPD should remain subject to the NSA for the long term. However, in the short term, the department and its partners must overcome several obstacles before an exit from court monitorship into full civilian oversight is prudent. Yeah, with this in mind, the commission says for the following.
Is this still on the screen?
Yeah, keep going. We're in part 2, chartering the path to enduring compliance, renewed leadership, and transition phase is 2A.
Well,
Mario, I know you can't see it. Go
no,
to
I'm just looking at all you guys, the gallery.
you have to go to where your gallery is and choose your gallery settings so you can see the presentation and the people.
Okay. I'll figure it out. Thanks.
Okay.
I did read it. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Are we going to fill in the date on what day the mayor announced the selection?
Yeah, we'll just have to find that out. I think we could just do a Google search.
Sorry. Let's see.
You know, this is all good about the police chief too, and many of his command staff also retired. Assistant Chief Tony Jones, we didn't know he was leaving. We knew Chief Allison was leaving, but we thought there was going to be some overlap, but that was abrupt. So, you know, this is good that the chief needs to figure things out. And I've heard that the mayor's trying to pressure him into some stuff that maybe he doesn't want. It's a mess over there. Anyway, keep going.
Chair Peterson, I see online that it says Floyd Mitchell was Oakland's new City Hall on Wednesday, March 27, 2024.
That might be when she announced it. I don't know. We could probably get a specific hiring date from the city administrator.
Mariano, you're sharing your screen?
No, we're now seeing just the gallery and we're no longer seeing the document. Hello, Pastor Jackie. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Pastor Jackie. Glad you're here.
Okay, here we are.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let's scroll down some more. Or up, or however this goes. Okay, can you move it again?
Good afternoon, Chair Peterson.
Good afternoon.
Will there be occasion to provide comment post this meeting
Certainly.
on the doc? Okay, I just want to make sure. Also, there's a question in the chat. I'm not sure if it was noticed.
Okay, thank you. Why do you say community is competent the chief? The community has not had any opportunity to determine that. Well, we can certainly hope that having hired a qualified professional, that this chief will be able to achieve the goals of leading the police department into a full-fledged constitutional policing process and force. So the chief constantly coming to the defense, but it's not giving me a lot of confidence. Okay. Hope and confidence are not the same. Okay. We can't read the future, but we can certainly hope for a certain result. Miss Risa, Miss Jeffries, so. Okay, can we move a little bit more into the document? Okay, Nikki is having problems with her computer. She wanted us to know. Okay, even though we have drawn out that these are culture problems, we also have to say how we are suggesting they be, keep going. We're also going to have to suggest how we're thinking they should be addressed. Yes, training programs. Okay, keep scrolling, Micah. Okay. Okay, thank you, Pastor Jackie, that we should have an overview, a statement at the beginning that states succinctly the position of the commission and bullets its reasons would do a lot to enlighten the narrative. Fair, that's fair. Okay, let's go a little bit further into it, Micah.
Close the door, please.
Is somebody talking or
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
Micah,
Yes.
Regina can't get into the Zoom. I know if she's at home, sometime it's wonky. Can you
I'll,
send?
I'll,
the
I'll
Zoom
work with
link?
her. I'll work with her.
Okay. Okay, can we scroll down a little bit more? I know you're doing a lot right now, Micah. Until there's some grammatical stuff. Okay. Do you want to go down a little more, Micah? I'm thinking I should have just printed this out. I don't know. Some of this sounds like we're whining. We have to fix this. Hmm. We can keep going.
Keep going.
Yes.
Okay.
Chair Peterson,
Yeah.
here, if there's been some additions and some editing submitted by myself and Nikki
Okay.
that would bolster this section here.
Okay, let's go through the entire document and come back to that, Mariano. Okay, I like this. Let's keep going. All right, so
That's it.
that's what we have so far. Where are you suggesting we insert your comments? And we'll do that in red or blue. I hate red, blue. Mariano.
So I can't see this title. Nikki added some titles to each of this section. So we're asking, that the case management conference should demand these things. There's a list of them. And I can, so they are proposed sustainability compliance components and outcomes. And so the education and awareness campaigns about the NSA, those should go on there. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so from this section on proposed sustainability compliance components and outcomes, we suggest that we can insert that piece there, and then it has the education and awareness. That's the campaign to educate all the department at all department levels, the history of NSA. And then Nikki put on desired outcomes. The desired outcome for that would be the reduction of fear, being disciplined for moving towards compliance. It's culture shifting, and so on and so forth. So these can be inserted there. And
Yes.
it's not in place. It's just expanding on those points that are already in
No,
there.
I think that's important rather than just suggesting actions. What are our desired outcomes? That's good. Thank you.
Mariana, you want to mention specifically where that reduction of fear of being disciplined for moving toward compliance came from? What we heard recently about, officers not wanting to take tests?
Yeah, well, this whole thing about we've always suspected that there was resistance to oversight by the Oakland Police Department. We've all suspected that and kind of knew that, but we didn't, know exactly how that manifested itself. And one thing that Jose and I have heard recently, in certain meetings with the chief and other police officers, is that there's a resistance to taking tests that will elevate you from a captain to higher position, because if you do that, then you will be more accountable, and that accountability means discipline. And so they don't want to take that responsibility of being liable to discipline. And I'm not making this up. This is exactly how we heard it. And so that told Jose and I that, you know, this is how it manifests itself, this resistance to oversight. The police department in general is thinking that accountability with oversight and accountability means discipline, because they're going to either lose their job, lose pay, be put on leave. And so they're seeing oversight as a negative, and not as them doing their job, you know, constitutionally.
Right.
So that's what it comes down to, and that, I think, addresses the core of you know, changing culture within any law enforcement agency, especially here in Oakland. So that's why you know, that addressing oversight resistance was put in there.
Well, one of the things also that Commissioner Ordaz has dropped into the chat is how do we measure this outcome? How do we measure whether they are moving towards it or not?
Right. Well, one of the things is that if there is discipline, you know, the Oakland Police Department should welcome discipline, because it means that you know, they're doing their job the way it should have been done from day one. So if there's any complaints and there's discipline, you know, discipline can only mean, or should mean, you know, moving to do better, and not necessarily firing someone.
Punitive. It's not punitive. It's
Exactly.
improve.
Exactly. Now, if that's the case, then that is the case. You know, there's some police officers who, you know, they just can't do better, you know, but you know, so it's, yeah, it's not punitive. So that's one way of measuring, you know, if things are working.
I don't know if we get reports, or the commission can get reports or request reports on monthly discipline. We do get reports on, you know, how many are on leave, and listening to the risk management meeting today that I was on for a bit. They do make a lot of, they have a lot of rationalization for the behavior of the officers. And in those risk management meetings, you kind of hear about their behavior, but it's always with an explanation that seems to absolve them of any accountability.
Right.
And that's a real concern of how do we get the information? How do we know what they're doing?
And then I added an actual period. And I went from a year to 18 months, a year and a half. And, you know, this is all for discussion. You know, when I was on the board of a nonprofit in San Francisco, we used to evaluate the quarters and how that particular nonprofit reacted or performed during a certain quarter. And not only for that year, but we compared it to the year before and maybe the year before that. You know, because things change in the way, you know, an entity or a group of reacts is different. So I thought that, you know, a calendar year may not be enough. When things tend to go wrong with, you know, with public safety, break-ins, you know, that tends to happen when the weather is good. And that's spring to summertime. And that's when police can also, you know, act differently maybe do some more racial profiling, maybe do some use of force, all these kind of different things. So I thought that, maybe we should see them in 2 cycles, not just 1 calendar year, 1 summer. There should maybe be 2 summers where the sustainability period is assessing those particular months. And that's up for discussion.
Mhm.
I like that idea of assessing over the course of 2 summer months, because certainly it not only establishes some of the things you talked about, but also it's a way of comparing and
Right.
seeing, in fact, there's not improvement or backsliding. I
Right.
like that.
But it, of course, extends the sustainability period and therefore, the cost. And again, I inserted the request of restructure, asking the monitor if, they're willing to consider restructuring their fee.
Ah. And what was you've asked that?
Yeah,
Oh, look at this. I like this in the chat. Some police departments that have been recognized for implementing strength-based and progressive disciplinary models. Los Angeles, LAPD uses an EIS to track officers. What's an EIS?
I don't know, but I can ask ChatGPT.
Oh, okay. Hello, Commissioner Ordaz. Behavior
Hello.
interventions such as counseling, training, or mentoring as needed. The New Orleans Police Department, NOPD, has integrated, and that's where Kirkpatrick is now, has integrated a strength-based approach in its disciplinary practices, focusing on officer wellness and development. They emphasize a supportive environment that aims to address underlying issues contributing to problematic behavior. Seattle Police Department, SPD's approach includes a strong focus on officer training, wellness, and support. They use data-driven methods to identify officers who may need additional resources and provide targeted interventions. These departments aim to foster a culture of continuous improvement and accountability, enhancing both officer performance and community trust. Well, it's good to know something like that is out there that we can model. I think what we should also be emphasizing always is not holding up where we are deficient, but also provide the suggested solutions. Because I don't want it to sound like we're just whining about what's not happening in Oakland, but what we see could happen in Oakland if certain other, like this, models are used. And certainly we talk about resources provided to the commission, because there still seems to be a real resistance in the city just in trying to have a conversation with all the thought partners, and for them to view us as a full thought partner and not just someone who they've allowed to have. And they didn't allow, the court wanted our addendum, yet the city is the driving party, without taking into consideration that in order to be sustainable and workable, the police commission has to be thought of as a partner in this. I just recently had a conversation, and again, they keep saying that we are not a party. And I said, that's an old view. The judge doesn't even look at it like that. When he said everybody on the screen get together and talk this out, he wasn't saying, but, oh, not the police commission because they are not a party. I think the judge views us as a full party in all of this and in the success of post NSA. But the city still has a firewall up, which is, I can assure you, they may take umbrage to what we're saying, but we need to put it out there from the community's perspective, because they're running same game, same argument. They wanted to be out of this in April, and they were making arguments to that effect. That's true. It doesn't matter, Pastor. I just wanted to kind of set the stage for, I feel, the battle that is going to come.
I think we're clear. I just think we need to be mindful, at least the last call that I was on, and perhaps I've missed one, that we also discussed using this as a vehicle to go out to other agencies besides whatever might be included. We established that anything we say may or may not be included in the actual response because it is not our discretion. We've established that piece of it. But what we also discussed is looking at the other avenues. We had to get the message out to the community so that they would know and be able to begin to apply pressure as it relates to the work that the commission is doing. And so I think in light of that, thank you, Nikki and Brother Mariano, in what you have put forth. I think it's excellent, and it certainly fleshes out what's already present in the document. And it also provides a guide for the way the document should be ordered and streamlined, so that when it is referenced, whether it is given to a newspaper, whether it's given to other bloggers, social media outlets, however we decide to do that, it's done in a way that is not too weedy for the public. And some of the issues that are coming up now in terms of specifics, I think could be worked out amongst the work of this group, but perhaps not necessarily for inclusion in detail in this document.
All right, so we're gonna drop Micah and Katina. We're gonna drop this suggested edit by Mariano and Nikki into the document in a way that kind of, and I'm with the pastor, it's too wordy right now, and it seems to somewhat ramble or even repeat some things we've already said in other statements, which if they need to be dropped in, of course they should be. But we do want to make this tight, and we want to make it readable and accessible to the court and to the public, because ultimately I think it's the public that's going to read this, and as the pastor said, put pressure on the city, because they're still resisting us being a full partner in the discussion and the creation of the CMC statement. Hot off the press.
They're nothing if not consistent.
There you go. And the pastor's right. So we've already raised that as the issue, and we just gonna go on with what we feel is necessary. Any more edits that you feel are necessary? Because I do think maybe we all need to, I am a paper person, and I apologize I didn't print this out so I could really work it over. But I do like the insert that Nikki and Mariano have offered. In this call, do you think it's good for us to spend this time talking about other edits, or would you like to work the document yourself and come with further edits or revisions? How would you like to proceed?
I'd like to do both because I had a couple of comments,
Okay.
and I'd like to kind of work with it and see how I can integrate Mariano and Nikki's document with what we see in front of us. A couple things on page 4 where it talks about rebuilding trust.
Can you put that up, Micah? Page 4?
Yeah, at the top of the page. It talks about rebuilding trust. It makes me think of the community resource officers primarily, especially in the following paragraph where it talks about promotional exams and field training. In the context of, I would think that those four aspects that or facets, as they're called, they're addressing historical challenges, fostering empathy, upholding professionalism, and most of all, rebuilding trust, should be rewarded in terms of promotions. Those that demonstrate those to the highest degree should be given, for lack of a better term, extra credit in promotions and in a system of rewards. And again, I'm talking about the community resource officers, because I always see them as being the front line in terms of community involvement. And they're the ones, I think, should they do their jobs as they should be done, would be the ones that would really be the biggest example of these four facets, particularly in rebuilding trust. So it's a long way of saying that I would hope to have a system of rewards for those officers that demonstrate these four facets to the maximum.
So not only just for a positive shift in disciplinary policy and discipline matrix, and yes, and it has been put in the chat, we can't discipline our way out of this NSA, but maybe we can provide incentives and rewards, like you say, for good behavior and positive behavior within this system that we're trying to create, this constitutional policing. So, yeah.
I agree. And those that demonstrate those four facets would be actively changing the culture if in fact they're demonstrating that on a day-to-day basis in terms of their relationship to the community. So they would be active change agents. And what could be better than to have them be recognized and rewarded, have a system of incentives, as you say, to encourage that kind of
What's a carrot and a stick? So system of incentives, and you said also how this would impact the possibility of promotions, or be a factor, I should say, a factor in promotions.
Yes.
Okay.
And the second point I had was on the top of page 5, leveraging existing training modules. It talks about Jim Channon, Allie Winston, Darwin Bond Graham, etc. Certainly, those would be valuable folks to bring into the police academy, but I would hope that we would be inclined to really push the idea of having community folks beyond these three that are mentioned here, in the sense of having the community actually being recognized as an integral part of police academy training, not just an add-on, and in fact be recognized as again an integral part of the training, in that they develop their own curriculum, they present that training, and in fact this training is of, by, and for and in the community. It doesn't have to be and shouldn't be exclusively downtown. It can and should be in the community, presented by community folks of a curriculum that the community has developed. So I think that's an important part of what should be the kind of education that the police academy recruits receive.
So are you suggesting community designed and implemented training module?
Exactly, and to be accepted by OPD as an integral part of what the recruits receive. Not just an add-on.
And this would, of course, be a collaborative effort with someone like DC Hubbard, since he's the training czar.
Surely.
Okay. And there's something in the chat from Regina. Says she's waiting to hear back from Dr. Everhart as to whether or not she can review our racial profiling training plan. So there is a training plan coming out of a very active racial profiling ad hoc.
Can I ask a question or offer a suggestion?
Yes, and then I want to take some of the other comments. Go
Yes.
ahead, Nikki.
And I'm sorry if this sounds naive. I mean, I've sat on the Public Safety Oversight Commission for a few years, and I was part of the Reimagine Safety Task Force. And it's been a privilege to sit in these ad hoc meetings as well. And what was consistent back then and still consistent now under Chief Mitchell is the narrative of the police department is that they are underfunded and that they can never make changes. We have offered, changes in many, many different iterations and ways in the past. So I think, I'm a little disheartened by what the narrative I still see, like after the Juneteenth shooting at Lake Merritt, the press release still said the same narrative, it's because we don't have enough funding, and their funding has increased, ever since I've been paying attention to the police department's work. So I guess my suggestion, that's my understanding of how this plays out. So my suggestion is if there's some way to emphasize the prioritization of these recommendations, that it isn't just that you have to layer on something else, but you actually have to work within what you have, just like all of us do in times like this. We work with what we've got and we prioritize what is most important. And so this is a call to prioritize and not just receive the feedback again that, because I remember distinctively, Mariana, I think you were there, like DC Wong said, well, if you gave us money for training, we'd happy to do some more training. We love all that. And I was like, yes. And you just cut the Park and Rec department the same, like just in the last budget, so a lot of kids aren't making do with what they need in our community, not let alone, offering the police department more money for training. So there must be some ways to balance what they have, but all the suggestions in here feel really good and consistent with some of the suggestions we saw at the Reimagine Task Force meetings as well. It's just that I would love this emphasis on, prioritize the culture shifting, the actual work with it.
That's a good call, Nikki.
Along with that, we can also mention the exorbitant overtime, that is being paid out. And, don't tell me there isn't any money. There isn't money because a lot of it is going to the overtime.
It's kind of they're caught between a rock and a hard place because they are now down to with this budget cycle, they can't hire any new officers. They are going to address the shortfall, in terms of money by by attrition, I think the chief said at the meeting. And so they're stuck with what was it, 600 and 26 officers, which is still a fallacy because they have something like 60 of them out on leave. I think 40 of those are for misconduct, and some are ridiculously waiting for Skelly officers. It was a shame. They had no shame in what they were saying at the last meeting. And so, Nikki, where your point is well taken, I just think, yeah, they have priorities, but they're just down so many officers. They aren't authorized full strength of what, 712, I think it is, which is still not enough. And there's no vision in City Hall on really, they want crime reduction. They have every kind of expectation of the chiefs. They don't last more than 18 months themselves, no matter what their background is. They can grow up in Oakland, they could go to McClymonds. They're out in 18 months. You can bring in someone from some other jurisdiction and they don't last. So it's a matter of vision to me in the city, or lack thereof, on how we really can credibly implement these plans.
Chair Peterson, I got a couple things. One, I always get very frustrated when I hear OPD say we don't have enough cops. It makes me think
Really?
of Reggie Lyles saying the police department will never tell you that they have enough cops. They never will. And so one of the things that makes me also think of is the study that was done, and I've mentioned a couple of times, it was done by David Muhammad and at that time ex-DC Bolton, where they looked at the 911 system and found out, bottom line, that half of the cops that are being dispatched out are going to nonviolent, non-criminal calls. And I told Allison one time, how are you saying that you don't have enough cops if you're sending half your cops out of dispatch to nonviolent, non-criminal calls? And so he was starting to tell me about, oh, we respond to, 1 million calls a day or something. The point is, he
I'm
didn't
not making excuses for them. I'm just saying that we can put forward all of the possible things that should happen in the police department. And our mission as a commission is fairly narrow in that space, but important and impactful, obviously. So I think I get frustrated too when I hear that, like Mariana says, they have just this huge overtime budget.
Yeah.
And they like it that way because their officers the ones on the rolls can make more money, but we would save money if they would just hire new officers and pay them the salary that they are due. So, and not all this overtime. So anyway, we got, when you talk about their overtime budget, it just kind of triggers me. So sorry.
Let me make one last point. That's on deployment. Talking about overtime costs, etc. I think it would behoove us or the commission to look at the deployment really, really closely. And I say that because last June 19th, we lost a neighbor a block from me, Jim Schneider. He was killed right there in front of his house, a block away. And one of the things that we noticed beyond the tragedy of losing Jim was that there were 19 officers out there for 4 hours. He was already passed away. Why would they need 19 officers to block off the street for 4 hours? I don't think that can be justified. And how many times has that been repeated? So I think deployment really needs to be looked at. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Are there any other inserts that we should be looking at as we continue to work on this statement? And I know Pastor Jackie, you did ask, is there an opportunity afterwards? Certainly. I think we all should, however best you work, if you download it to a piece of paper and do the hand modifications, or you work it on your computer, we need to have those edits. Commissioner Ordaz, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to everyone for your commitment to this work. I just wanted to lift up your comment around sounding a little too complainy. That was also my initial reaction when I read this on BART ahead of this call. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity here to include some of the stuff that we have been doing and some of the stuff that, like some of the progress that we've made, recognizing there's still a whole lot to go. And I'm particularly thinking about the racial profiling case that we sustained, like the first one ever. I think it's important to lift that up and use that as an example of how the commission, what it's here to do, and how we can, move the needle on this piece. There was something else that came to mind that I can't think of right now, but again, really thinking about what are the highlights. I think we have an opportunity to make the case for this body to continue to exist, because this document is not only for the court, but it's also for, the public. And what other things can we put on there to make that case more clear? Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson has her hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I've already forwarded to our council the racial profiling cultural accountability statement, first ever, in response to trying to frame what we expect of their culture as some language that can be, excuse me, can be used in the document. I know that we didn't talk about that in the NSA meeting, but in the previous NSA meeting, but I wanted to offer that up. Excuse me, Darlene Flynn with the Office of Race and Equity, IG Michelle Phillips, and Interim Deputy Chief Brian Hubbard, in addition to us commissioners, I think framed out a pretty awesome document. And Micah, if you can maybe share that with the NSA Ad Hoc so that they can see what we were working with as well, and, see if they think that some are part of that should go in.
Yeah, I think we need to go, we need to go as strong as we credibly can on what we have done and are capable of doing as community volunteers. And also put forth at the same time what we also have identified as ways to accomplish the goal of community policing by making these suggestions, including the training, including the revision of the disciplinary matrix, including other aspects that we have identified in here, but don't seem to stand out. They're buried in maybe too much. I don't want it to say it's verbose, but I think it is kind of wordy, and it's not capturing clearly, like why I really like the inserts from Mariano and Nikki is because it really stands out and it captures what we are suggesting within our lane that can be accomplished, and why we are credible also to make those suggestions because of the work we have already accomplished and we are capable of accomplishing. Mariano?
Yes, to add to Commissioner Ordaz's suggestion of, mentioning the positives, what
Yeah.
this commission has accomplished. There's besides the sustained racial profiling case, there's also how the commission has actually directed the OPD to discuss and define pattern. That it has been functioning without a definition of pattern, and that goes directly to racial profiling and other cases. Also, how the police commission has redefined the reports that the police department provides you at every meeting. Where it used to be like a crime sheet. Now it's more on oversight issues and topics. That has totally changed. So those are the kind of, positive things that have happened. And then, and I could maybe send some recommendations, but I think that there needs to be, one of the questions that the judge has asked this particular, well, the whole CMC is how do you change culture? And one of the things I think that needs to be mentioned in this document is that OPD should not be afraid of oversight. Are they simply tolerating oversight? By going along with it and hoping that that it's gonna die. There was an attempt by a city council person to actually do that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that those naysayers of oversight were just chomping at the bit. But I think that I can provide one or two sentences. It shouldn't be more than that. Just mentioning that one way of achieving true compliance and constitutional policing is a buy-in from the police department, on oversight, and not just simply, tolerating it, or, a kind of soft undertone resistance to it. Thank you.
Tolerate. Yeah. Well, I think they have tolerated it for the last 21 years. Yeah. That's why we're still here.
That's right.
So when we talk about buy-in, and yes, buy-in with actions and not just words, that's the punch we want to provide in this CMC. That the buy-in is through the suggestions and implemented actions we have taken as a commission, and these are the ones we also suggest should happen in the future. So this has to be a more punchy document. Any comments? Buy-in with actions. I like that.
Chair Peterson?
I'm
I'd
here.
also like to spend a little bit of time today on just getting a report on the possible meeting that was requested of the city or the CMC stakeholders, and what next steps are for that.
There's been no positive response to our request for a meeting. We have had side meetings with OCA attorneys that are not involved in drafting the CMC, and their offer to assist us if we would like to have their assistance. And that's been a very, very, very recent development. But without them being able to describe to us what it is that the city is putting in their statement, or the city is considering in its response. It's kind of a offer of what the sleeves off their vests, because there's no there there. They don't know anything. They can't help us. As I see, I didn't outright reject it, but I wanted to make sure they understood we were drafting a statement that was reflective of our integrity as community representatives. So no, Bridget hasn't offered to meet with us, except she said she would come to talk with us, but that is not what the judge really offered. The judge ordered that all parties get together. I guess I shouldn't reject it out of hand, but do you see any value in maybe having the writer of the CMC statement come and talk with us?
At this point, I don't, but I thought Walter Riley had approached the mayor's office for a meeting.
And the mayor said her people will get back to us. And I've gotten that response from her at least twice.
Okay.
And it's crickets. Pastor Jackie is suggesting, yes, that we have Bridget come and talk to us.
At this point, I do. And I think, and I don't know whether or not the pat answer of her assistant would calendar the meeting got derailed by some of the other things that we are now have experienced. But I do think it would be important for the author of that document to hear a community voice, and not just through you as chair, although I certainly appreciate your representation, because I think they need to be clear that it's not just your interpretation of what the document said, it's our interpretation of what the document said. So that this is not an attempt to superimpose, but the request was that all of the impacted parties come together and have a conversation. And if there is an issue with that occurring, I think they owe us an explanation. That's just my posture. I would love for her to be able to come and engage if that's the purpose. If there's no intent to engage, then no, there's no reason for you to come. But I would like further understanding of the response that you were given when it was clearly stated in a document, unless I have misinterpreted, and I don't think that I have, that this meeting was to take place.
Okay.
I couldn't agree with Pastor Jackie more. I think we need to tell her in no uncertain terms that this meeting should occur per the judge's order. And I don't think it's ambiguous what he was talking about.
I don't either. Anyone else want to chime in on that? I will certainly take her up then on her email that said she would come to our meeting. And we can hopefully have her as soon as next week, because we meet every week. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Done. And in the meantime, and I don't want to take up more time than necessary, how do we want to handle this document in terms of edits? And I know Pastor Jackie had said she would take some time offline to look
Yeah,
at
that's usually what I've done. It's always generally on a plane. And so I have a flight in the morning, so it's not super long, but I will take a look at it and then just kind of do my usual thing and send back my thoughts. Because I think all of the pertinent information that would make it impactful is there. I just think a reordering and some editing and some explanations that aren't really necessary could be taken out, so that the information, particularly around the impact that the commission has already made and the forward progress has been made can be included, and it doesn't become a document in length that is too overwhelming for the dual purposes that we have for it.
Right. Sounds good.
Can I ask an obvious question? So are we recommending, and I didn't see it in the, anywhere in the document, that we are not ready to get off from under NSA?
I think that we are outlining for the court some of the lingering concerns we have about whether or not we should or shouldn't. I think we'll draft it and we'll see at the end whether or not.
Okay. Got it.
Anyone else? We have a
I
hard
just think
stop.
it's magnificent work that has been being shared this evening. Great questions, great suggestions, and great chat GPT. So I'm excited.
It's gonna happen, guys. One way or another. But we're gonna come out strong on this. Anyone else want to add something now or bring back? I think if we're gonna bring back our edits, do we want to have them earlier than our meeting, or we just present them at our meeting?
Earlier if possible.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It is, what is this, Tuesday? Do you think that at least we could have everything into Micah by Friday, but not later than Monday noon? So it could be kind of synthesized into the document?
Yes.
Friday would be great, I think, for the purpose of trying to synthesize it into a document. Katina, is that good?
I may be able to, if I get things in by Friday, it's probably more reasonable to think I could synthesize it by the end of the day on Monday.
And between you, Micah, and me, we'll get that together. So let's pledge to get whatever comments, additional comments that we want or revisions we think that should be made into Micah by Friday.
Great.
Okay. And I don't want to, just because we said we go to 6, I can release you 10 minutes earlier.
I had a quick comment about, I'm looking forward to this meeting with this Bridget, who I don't know at all. But Regina, it may be useful, and this is something that you may, I'd be interested in hearing your perspective on. It may be useful for Bridget to hear a synopsis of some of the struggles we went through early on with the city, just to remind her of some of the history that the police commission and the city have passed through, even the
Okay.
OIG.
Okay.
So just a little reminder of the battle that we waged in the past.
Good point. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, if there's nothing more, have a good evening. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the time that you give to the city of Oakland in service. It's just good to know there's so many good, progressive people in our city who want to see our city succeed, despite everything that's going on around us. So have a good evening. Have a glass of wine.
Good night, all.
Enjoy.
Good night.
We're gonna have